Right to this, a suggestion via a channel member. Guys, just going to jump into this video immediately. Let's see where this takes us.
Ordering a massive mobilization of its military as the United States sends more of its own firepower to the region.
Amantes de la paz.
We love peace. We deeply love peace. We don't want war here nor in any other place around the world.
Okay.
But if they dare to touch Venezuela, they're going to find us in every street.
Cool. Yeah, so definitely what I hear when he says this here is, how dare you attack any of the cartels that are basically keeping the government afloat, keeping the leader Maduro specifically in power, right? How dare you affect our money? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this here. I do think that this is in fact a state, and some of the highest people in power are in fact benefiting from the fact that cartels are basically running rampant between Venezuela along with Colombia.
Well, the announcement came after America's largest warship arrived in U.S. Southern Command area of operations. That area includes most of Latin America. We've got CNN senior national security reporter Zach Cohen in Washington for us. Zach, good to see you. What more do we know about Venezuela's mobilization of not only its troops, but equipment as well as ammunition? And then also, how significant is it that the USS Gerald R is now in Southern Command's region?
Yeah, Venezuelan officials making clear that this mobilization was ordered directly by President Nicolas Maduro, and it comes as a response to the U.S. military buildup in the region, which of course has been used to conduct these strikes against alleged boats, but increasing tensions with Venezuela in the process. Venezuelan officials calling the U.S. buildup a, quote, imperialist threat, and saying that they plan to conduct land, air, and naval exercises to really, as a show of force, to essentially ward off a potential U.S. invasion of sorts. Now, the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R is the U.S.'s largest aircraft carrier. It is the most advanced aircraft carrier in the U.S. fleet. At the same time, it brings significant air assets as well. It has 9 air squadrons, anti-surface capabilities, and it will join what is already a very large U.S. military presence in the region, including guided missile destroyers that are all ballistic capable, raising questions about what this firepower is needed. The Trump administration insists that the Gerald R and the rest of the military assets there are intended to conduct the mission, the targeting of alleged boats. But at the same time, I'm told U.S. officials were unable to tell Congress why they need so much firepower to target small boats. So this uncertainty still...
Because it's a lot more than that, guys. Like, listen, is there going to be some type of like full-scale invasion going on in Venezuela? Guys, probably not, right? But just understand this specifically. Maduro and his regime, all right, there are issues here, okay? Just like how President Sheinbaum got basically outed by a whistleblower from Mexico saying that she basically is only in power exclusively due to the cartels. Who is keeping Maduro in power? Like the cartels. Guys, understand this here. There's not going to be any type of full-scale invasion. That's not a thing here. Obviously, they're mounting something massive, right? But they don't even need this much for Venezuela, guys. Truth be told, I mean, listen, they tried to do like a military test or a trial a couple of weeks ago and ended up basically burning out the boat, guys. It was wild. Like, that happened. You don't really need that much for Venezuela specifically, but when it comes down to the overall might and reach of the cartel, you may actually need something like that because, guys, the amount of money that they basically burn through to protect their interests specifically is more than some countries are making, guys.
Increasing and contributing to the ongoing tensions with Venezuela.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, a lot of people looking on and wondering whether this means some kind of confrontation down the line. But we know that the undercurrents of a lot of what we've been seeing is that Caracas does believe that Washington is seeking regime change, something we've even heard from President Trump in sort of nuanced terms. But what are your sources telling you?
Yeah, we reported back in September and since then that there are some within the Trump administration who are pushing a strategy to effectively conduct strikes inside Venezuela with the idea of pushing Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, out of power. That is still something some U.S. officials hope can be accomplished as part of this military buildup. But at the same time, we also know that the Trump administration told Congress just a few days ago that it doesn't currently have the legal justification to target anything inside Venezuela or any other territory, even though they are potentially seeking an additional legal justification that would allow them to do so. So really some uncertainty, some ambiguity there. As you
This is
mentioned, Donald
true.
Trump has been non-committal on this since the beginning, both speaking in very verbose terms, in terms of threatening Nicolas Maduro, but at the same time, not going all the way to commit to U.S. forces conducting some sort of a regime change strategy operation targeting him. So we're gonna have to wait and see what ultimately happens. But again, there's really a lot of questions as to what all this U.S. firepower, a significant piece of the U.S. Navy, what it is doing there and why it's needed, which is, again, is stoking the questions about a potential regime change in Venezuela.
Yeah. All right, Zacho, and great to have you on the story. Thank you so much.
Joining me now to discuss all this is retired U.S. Air Force Colonel and CNN military analyst Cedric Leighton. Welcome to the show for the first time. Thanks so much for being with us.
That was my pleasure. Thanks so much, Alex. Appreciate it.
So what's really going on here with Venezuela?
Yeah, so this is a very complex issue, actually. But what's
It's not that
basically
complex,
happening is
guys.
that the U.S. is moving its forces in, just as you described, with the USS Gerald R. the biggest aircraft carrier in the world, basically entering that particular part of the world. And since it's there, it was moved from Europe. It now gives the U.S. extra air power that it can potentially use against targets in Venezuela. Now, the administration, the Trump administration, has denied that it is going after regime change in Venezuela, but the types of forces that are arrayed against Venezuela or against targets in Venezuela is way more than what you need for a interdiction mission, and not quite enough to really affect regime change. So we're kind of in that gray zone right now in terms of the numbers of forces. But I think what the administration wants to do, Alex, is they want to have a presence in the area that will perhaps force change in Venezuela. But that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, but it's not
And
enough.
Nicolas Maduro, who leads Venezuela, has expressed concern that the Trump administration wants there to be regime change. Do you think that's what's going on here? And if so, how would that even happen?
Yeah, that would be one of the most difficult things to actually do. Now, I can see from Maduro's point of view that that's exactly what he sees. If you're, sitting in Caracas and you're looking out across the Caribbean and you see all these naval vessels coming toward you and the aircraft flying along your coastline, then you certainly think that there's something more going on than just going after some boats that are on the coastline. So what Maduro is doing is he's beefing up his forces. He's calling up the reserves. He's calling up his military, his National Guard, and they are, in essence, putting themselves in a position where they think they can defend the country. Now, what would happen if, let's say, we did try to affect regime change? I think the first thing that the U.S. would try to do is make contact with the opposition leaders, including the lady Machado, who received the Nobel Peace Prize recently. And that would then be the impetus to move things forward using Venezuelan forces to, in essence, fight each other. Now, that's one possible scenario. Nobody has said that's going to happen yet, but it's certainly a possibility. So if I were Maduro, I'd be looking at this and I'd be concerned, to say the least. The Russians have moved some equipment into Venezuela. They have Cuban help already in the form of intelligence support.
Of course they do.
Weapons
Of course.
support. So
China.
there is definitely an effort going on within Venezuela and with Venezuela's allies to build up the Venezuelan forces, perhaps to thwart a possible U.S. invasion.
So sort of yes or no, should the U.S. be concerned about a war with Venezuela?
No.
Yes, because
No.
it's a much more complex thing than just throwing out the government. The government has been in power there through two leaders, Chavez and Maduro, for decades now. They have institutions. They have a whole cadre of folks that are loyal to them. And they would potentially mount a guerrilla war against any U.S. forces or other allies that come into Venezuela. So what you could see is us getting mired into a war that would make Vietnam potentially look like not quite a picnic, but certainly it would be a very difficult aspect to deal with.
Yeah, because the cartel would basically create a military. All right, guys, here's the thing. Should we be concerned at all by any means? At all, guys? No, we should not be concerned. Is it plausible that something like this could potentially happen? Yes. But should we be concerned with their irrelevant force? No, we should not be concerned with their irrelevant force, guys. I'm sorry. I think that's just kind of the reality here. Do I think that Trump is going to mount some type of absolute crazy invasion in Venezuela? No, I don't think so. Again, Venezuela is a sovereign nation here. Regardless of how terrible it's being currently ran, I can imagine that we still really can't do anything specifically without like war powers specifically, and Congress is not going to give it. Not that Congress, not that specific Congress. Understand this here. Now, listen, I think that the Venezuela issue is a multiple fold issue. Now, where have a gigantic quantity of people come from that have broken into our country? South America, Central America, Mexico, guys, right? The reality of that is that we are trying, and what are they all saying? They're all saying, I need asylum because it's terrible down here. How long did you think it was going to take for the United States of America to say, okay, let's go fix that problem then? Let's fix the problem so you can stop breaking into our country and stop, and us having to pay for every single thing that you do in your life, guys. Maybe that's a good idea, potentially. But listen, I do think that it's definitely a multiple issue here. Is it just the bad stuff people are doing to their bodies with all the things? No, it's more than that. It has to be. But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies, and I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings, and we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry. Right? Listen, like and subscribe.